Hi there and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Allie and today I'm going to be sharing with you my 5 favorite tips for home decor. These are things that you can implement in your own home without spending a ton of money, without having any kind of special skill sets. I promise you, you don't need to know how to do things meticulously or have a ton of skills to get this done. These are things that you can take from this video and right away implement into your own home. They're inexpensive, easy to pull together, and they'll elevate the look and feel of your home within minutes. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first tip that I'm gonna share is to use trays. Using trays in your space makes things feel pulled together, put together nicely. It's a way that you can take objects that might not be perfectly matchy or similar. Maybe they even have different wood tones and things like that, but it's a way that you can group these objects and make them feel cohesive, make them feel like they belong there. Trays make things feel organized, they make things feel collected. Trays can elevate the look and feel of your home. I use trays on my coffee table to house things like remotes and coasters, like this tray that I'm showing you here, which I found at HomeGoods. It's beautiful. And you can see that I had these coasters. I bought these coasters and they came in their own holder, but it kind of felt generic. It didn't really feel warm. I didn't really love the wood grain in them, but just taking them out of the holder that they came in and putting them in a tray like this, and again, just adding some remote controls or other things that we use every day so that it's functional as well, really makes a place for these things on the coffee table and helps the coffee table to feel warm, cozy, and welcoming. I also use trays on coffee tables for things like lanterns with soft candles in them, which just bring a really nice, cozy glow at night. Using trays on things like a console table when you first walk into your home is a great way to collect items that you use every day that, again, maybe wouldn't work without a tray. Like you could see on this console table, I have this beautiful little bowl that I thrifted that I like to keep some Palo Santo in, and I have a little match jar right next to it, which I love. And without the tray, it almost feels like it's a little too small for the space, but once I add the tray underneath it, it brightens it up, brings these items together, and really makes sense in that space. I use trays on my kitchen counter. So you can see I have this large vase that I like to swap out seasonal florals in, and I recently updated it and put some florals in there for spring, but it felt like it was missing something. So I found this beautiful woven tray at Target, and I've linked everything for you in the description box. But you can take a tray like this and just put that vase in it. And again, add things like a candle, coasters, whatever it is that you really use in that space. I personally really like when things are functional, not just there decoratively. I mean, sometimes of course decoratively is great, but I really like to add an element of function to what it is that I'm doing. So when I pull these items together on my countertop, again, it just looks very cohesive, looks neat, looks tidy, and looks stylish at the same time. One of my favorite places to use a tray is next to the stove. So you have items maybe that you use every day that you use for cooking, like pepper mills and salt, maybe a salt and pepper shaker set, maybe you've got your olive oil, anything else that you like to keep next to the stove that maybe the bottles are different, the sizes are different, but if you pull them together with a tray like this one that I have here, I love this tray. It's a beaded wooden tray that I got on Amazon. Again, linked it for you. You can really use anything. You can even use a favorite bowl of yours or, you know, a favorite wooden cheese board. But once you add those items to the tray, it looks beautiful and it makes those items feel like they belong there. Another tip that I love to use when I'm cozying up a space is to mix woods. So a lot of times people are afraid to mix things like woods or even metals because we kind of had this idea in our head that everything has to be very matchy-matchy. And I don't believe that concept at all. I actually think that it adds a lot more depth to your home and warmth to your home when you are not afraid to mix different styles of woods. So as you can see, I do that all over my space. I have it at my kitchen table. You know, the wood on the chairs does not completely match the wood on the kitchen table. My coffee table doesn't perfectly match the floors. I use dark woods like these black woods that I have on my console table. I mix woods with cutting boards in the kitchen, but again, use woods to warm up your space. You can see that my kitchen is very white. You know, we decided to go with white countertops and white cabinetry. And I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. I personally like the white. But I knew that I needed to break it up a little bit with pops of wood, or else it would really feel too stark, too cold, too stale. So I added a band of wood around the hood in our kitchen above our stove, and I love it there. I feel like it belongs there. It warms up the space. And the nice thing about wood is that usually in many different kinds of wood, you can see different grains, right? Mostly wood is not always flat, one color. So that's the beauty of wood. It adds movement to the space, and it allows you to bring in other different types of wood, because usually those wooden pieces have different colors throughout them, woven throughout them in the grains. So it's really, really nice to warm up the space, brings that natural element in, brings the outside in. So again, it really adds coziness to the space. A lot of times people will wonder, how can I make my home feel cozy? How can I make it feel lived in and not too stark? And that's one of the key pieces to do, is to bring in wood elements into your home and to not be afraid to mix those elements. And layers of wood definitely don't need to be big ticket items. They don't need to be expensive things. You can bring in layers of wood in terms of baskets. So think planters, think trays like we talked about earlier, cutting boards that you can thrift, wooden risers that you can get on Amazon. All of these ways to bring that warm element of wood to your space, mixed wood to your space, without spending a ton of money. Okay, a third way to make your home feel expensive and cozy, warm, and to really just upgrade and elevate all your spaces in your home is to add candles. I personally love artificial candles. I use them all over my home and I love them. One of my favorite things to do at night is to just take the remote, because that's the beauty of a lot of these sets of candles, is that they come with a remote control. So you don't need to sit there and turn on each and every single candle. You can literally just sit on your couch like I do at night and just turn on all those sets of candles, and they add such a warm glow. I do this most nights, to be honest, because whether people are coming over or not, it really just makes me feel good. It helps me unwind at the end of the day, really boosts my mood. And I think that sometimes we underestimate how much our spaces can really affect our moods and our well-being. So I know that even if I had a rough day, at the end of the day, I can just wind down and just cozy up my space, add those beautiful little touches of ambiance, add that soft glow. And of course, this is great if you're entertaining, if you have guests, or even if you just want to cozy up a space that feels kind of flat to you in your home. So I use these candles on my dining table. I use them on my mantle. I use them on console tables. I use them in my kitchen. So again, as I mentioned earlier, this tray that I have on my countertop, I felt like it just needed a little bit of a flicker of light, again, to add that movement, add that warmth in the space. So definitely use some faux candles. I use them in all sizes too. I use pillars, I use taper candles, I use tea light candles, votive candles. You really can't go wrong with these. And again, takes no skill whatsoever. Just purchase a set and turn on the remote and you're done. Okay, so a fourth tip that I have for you in making your home feel expensive and warm and just being an easy decor trick is to use greenery in your home. Use greenery in each space of your home. I know it sounds kind of obvious, and sometimes we may walk into a space and think to ourselves, wow, this feels really cozy, but you may not exactly be able to put your finger on why. Greenery is usually the number one reason. If you have a space without greenery, it tends to feel flat. It tends to feel cold, not really pulled together. Greenery will do the opposite. It will make your space feel warm and cozy and just kind of help ground everything. You also don't have to be a green thumb to do this. There are so many really great quality brands of artificial greenery, and I linked my favorite for you. I personally like to use a mix of both living and artificial plants in my space, just because sometimes you may have a corner that doesn't get good light, or it doesn't really make sense to have a live plant in that space, or maybe you're not a green thumb and you just know that you're going to forget to water it. Whatever it is, you can pop some faux greenery, some artificial greenery in that space, and then save your live plants, if that's what you want to do, in a space that gets good light. But again, even if you're doing all artificial greenery, you can't go wrong with these. I linked my favorites for you in the description, one of which is this tree. I purchased this tree last year and I am in love with it. First of all, the wood on the tree is actually real wood. So even though the tree has artificial leaves, it still gives a very rich, natural feel to it. And I actually had a friend over recently who thought that it was real, and she had asked me if it was. But you can see that the stem is made out of real wood. It even has real moss on it. And then the leaves, the greenery part, are the artificial part. But you wouldn't know it if I didn't tell you. And I personally use this piece because I like to add it to this corner of my covered porch. When the weather warms up here, I live in the Carolinas, so we do still get freezing temperatures. So I have this beautiful fiddle leaf fig tree that I keep in my living room. But the minute that our last frost happens, I swap these two plants. So my fiddle leaf goes out in the covered porch because it really likes that natural light there when it's warm enough. And I bring my artificial plant inside. And again, just cozies up the corner, adds that element of warmth to my space, and helps to ground everything else in the space. And one of my favorite tricks about the trick of adding greenery, so this is like a sub trick underneath the greenery, is to use moss. I don't really have any fancy arrangements in my space. I tend to keep things pretty simple. And one of the reasons for that is because I like to swap things out, especially with the seasons. So if I really go crazy and have these ornate arrangements, it usually takes a lot more effort, which is totally fine if that's what you like to do. For me personally, I usually like to keep things a little bit more simple. So using moss instead of even having stems is one of my favorite hacks. So you can see that I have this planter that I got from Walmart, and I love it. It's got the pleated edges all the way around. I love that it's wider at the top and then gets a little bit more fluted at the bottom. So all I did here, which is another sub trick, is you don't need to fill this entire thing with moss. You can use plastic bags in there. You can use shredded paper like I have here. And you just fill all of it with whatever thing that don't worry about what it looks like, you're gonna cover it up anyway. You fill it with that ugly stuff at the bottom, and then you add a nice layer of moss over the top of it. So all you're really seeing is that moss, but everything underneath it is what pops it up and gives it that height. So you definitely wanna make sure that you have a little bit of height there. So again, I use it in this planter like I have in our bedroom. I use it in this beautiful wooden bowl that we have in our living room. And any other planters that I find, or areas where I feel like I just need a pop of green, but don't necessarily want to source stems or go out and find other things to put there. You can even add to planters. For example, like I have this succulent planter that I put together that I use in our powder room. And I just add some moss around it to cover up the dirt. And it just adds another layer of richness. Again, looks expensive, is completely inexpensive and super easy to do. So if you're gonna start anywhere, I would make this tip your priority. Use the moss, use the greenery, whether it's real or faux greenery. It's inexpensive and it's one of the quickest ways to elevate your space. And my fifth and final tip for you is to use layers. Adding layers to your space is what really makes things pop and what really gives depth to a space. So when you're thinking layers, think things like throw blankets, pillows, again, greenery is another layer. These things add depth and make the home feel rich, warm, and lived in. You can layer in color to help things pop, like I have in this centerpiece on my dining table. It's a lot of green, which I love, but I layered in different colors. Again, that adds that depth and that interest to the space. You can add layers by doubling up vases. I really like to do that. You can add layers with cutting boards. For example, have one or two in one color tone and then layer in another color tone on top of it. Books are a beautiful way to add layers. I like to keep books on my coffee tables, and I keep cookbooks out in my kitchen because again, that just adds another layer, adds another texture to the space. You can think of layers like how you would accessorize an outfit. So the same outfit might look great on its own, but it would look really great if you layered in a pair of earrings or maybe a beautiful ring. Again, adding layers helps to create a style. Layers also bring in a softness and warmth to the space that again really makes it feel elevated, lived in, and cozy. A last tip, I know I said 5, but I do have one more for you, is to layer in a scent. So I'm not very big on artificial scents. We're pretty sensitive to that. I tend to get a headache from anything that's too potent or strong, but I do like to add in a spritzer of some kind of essential oil that just reflects the season that we're in. So lately I added one to our powder bath, and it's just a fresh lemony scent. You really can't go wrong with a fresh scent. And you don't, again, want anything that's too powerful, just something that signals to the senses whatever season you're in and makes your space feel fresh. Oh, and one more bonus one. I know I said only 5. I've already given you 6. This is a last bonus one, I promise. Bring in some form of sentiment to your space. So what do I mean by that? I mean items that are not necessarily on trend or stylish, but they're items that are important to you, items that have meaning to you personally. This is what's going to make your house feel lived in. This is what's going to lend to your own personal style. And this is what is going to make you feel really at home in your home. I know that sounds silly, but sometimes we can get caught up in like what everyone else is doing or different trends and things like that. So bring sentiment into your home. I'm going to do another video on this actually very, very soon. And I'm going to show you the different ways that I incorporated sentimental pieces into my home from my grandmother, my great aunt, other ancestors in our families that just add a layer of coziness and style, because I'm sure you've realized that things that were once popular, they always come back again. Even if they're not popular right now, it doesn't matter. Bringing in a sentiment to your home is what makes it feel warm, lived in, and specifically unique to you. But again, look out for another video on that. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but make sure you're subscribed to my channel so that you don't miss that. Did you like this video? Which tip is your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and definitely give it a thumbs up if you liked it. YouTube loves that, and it helps them show you more of my videos. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any new videos. If you have other ideas for me, other things that you want to see or learn how to do, leave me a comment, let me know what those things are, and I'll be sure to make new videos on those topics. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.